Hello everyone and welcome back to another Guild Wars 2 video. I am back again playing some Revenant, and in particular I have been playing some open world and a little bit of PvE endgame like ratings and fractals. I've been playing the Revenant, and a specific build that I've been playing has been focused on support. That means I've been playing Ventari, and also I've chosen to go with Glint. I'm fully aware that Renegade Call Scorch Razor also offers some really awesome support in terms of her warband and just her traits, but I thought I'd go with the OG Herald and be gifted with some of the prophetic powers of Glint. So I wanted to share just the things I've been doing with this build. Nothing super extreme, but just some more fun, especially in Heart of Thorns, or if you're doing boss trains where you need to keep your allies alive. Thought it's been really effective and a lot of fun to play. So let's start out with my equipment that I've been running with, and then I'll go into the traits and then my skill setups and how I've actually been using my skills. So for my armor, not completely done, I will say. Currently, I have a mixture of Magi's and Harriers. My shoulders and my gloves are Harriers. I'm hoping to get at least a couple more pieces of Harriers, maybe the chest and the boots, and then maybe leave the pants and the helm as Magi's just for increasing healing power and more vitality. I'll touch on vitality when I get to my traits. It'll kind of all loop back around. But so far, a little bit of Harriers and mostly Magi's, which offers great healing power and extra vitality and some precision. With the Harriers, it's great for power, because power is main stat, but additionally, it gives concentration to increase boon duration, which has been something that I have been trying to balance to see, do I want more healing power or do I want a little bit more concentration? The rune I'm using is the Superior Rune of Duena because of the regeneration factor. I thought it would be a very interesting combination to use Superior Rune of Duena with the Herald because of the recent Herald changes. So basically what the Superior Rune of Duena does, it increases healing power and also 10% regeneration duration, plus another 20% regeneration duration. It's so weird to say regeneration duration. It gives more max health, and also regeneration you apply is 20% more effective. And just to quickly give you a preface, Elder's Respite increases regeneration healing by 20% also. So I thought it'd be a really interesting matchup, and I've really been liking the effects. My regeneration numbers are pretty high. For my first weapon set, I'm using a sword and a shield. I don't often use a sword and a shield with my support. I typically camp in staff. I'm using a Harrier staff with Superior Sigil of Transference, which increases outgoing healing by 10%, and Superior Sigil of Water to heal allies around me when I critically hit. I also have extra runes of Transference and Water when I'm planning on putting them on here when I get Ascended weapons. I don't know when that's gonna be. If it doesn't happen in a while, I'll probably just put them on anyway because they're nice to have. Going on to my backpack, I'm using a Harrier's backpack. It's exotic. With my accessories, double Harrier, just for increased concentration. I'm using a healing signet, which is Cleric's, and I'm also using a Cleric's amulet. I do want to switch these over to probably minstrels, just for extra toughness and concentration. And for my final ring, I am using Harriers. So a lot of my gear is kind of mixed matching sets. I'm taking a little bit of Magi's, I'm taking a lot of Magi's actually for my armor, a little bit of Harrier, and just a little bit of Clerics. And I'll explain why. Moving over to the build, we are taking Invocation, Salvation, and Herald. For Invocation, I decided to go with Rising Tide for increased damage, Spirit Boon for extra boons if I swap to the legends I'm using, and the legends I'm using are quite decent. Ventari for extra regen and Glint for a little bit more protection. And finally, I'm taking Charge Mists. I love this. I don't know when I will never love this unless they completely destroy it to the ground, but it's great to increase your overall energy when you're swapping into another legend. Song of the Mists seems interesting, but I haven't really been using it because it's a really small radius. I don't know. And Rolling Mists, I'm not really focusing too much on damage. Next up is Salvation, which focuses on the legendary centaur stance, Ventari. I'm taking Nourishing Roots, which grant regeneration to allies near Ventari's tablet. I'm focusing on this because of Superior Rune of Duena and also Elder's Respite. Next up, I'm taking Tranquil Benediction. Healing orbs that you create while wielding a staff will now grant swiftness and regeneration when picked up by allies, just for some extra regen. I've also considered taking Invoking Harmony. It's only that it lasts for 10 seconds, and I don't know how much I feel like I get out of 10 seconds, because I don't feel like I'm swapping legends too frequently, which could be my downfall. And finally, for the Grandmaster, I'm taking Selfless Amplification. This increases outgoing healing based on a percentage of healing power that you already have. So these are the three that I'm taking. Natural Abundance I sometimes take just for extra sparse heals when I'm moving my tablet around with its 6th skill. I quickly wanted to touch on Hardened Foundation. This is gain toughness and then gain healing power based on some toughness. This is one reason why I'm taking a little bit of toughness stats for my equipment, such as clerics. I do probably want to switch that over to minstrels, but we're getting there. We're getting there. And finally,
I miss the simple joy of galloping across an open field.
One day soon, we'll find one and run as fast and as far as we can.
thank you, Ventari. He's so sweet and supple. It'd be a nice Easter egg if you were a Revenant and you were like running along Gandarian fields and like just a spirit form of Ventari starts galloping beside you for a little bit. That'd be kind of interesting. So for the Herald, I am taking Elder's Respite. I've spoken about this a little while ago. Regeneration heals for more and gain regeneration when your health falls below the threshold. I'm not super worried about the health falling below the threshold. I just want increased regeneration healing because I think it's cool. Next, I'm taking Shared Empowerment. When applying a boon to an ally, also apply Might to nearby allies. This is a 10 target trait, which is always amazing. I wish that there were more 10 target traits in Guild Wars 2. I'd also like to say that this is one reason why I'm also taking Nourishing Roots. When I'm in Ventari's stance, I want there to be a passive Might generation, which ends up helping. Maybe not super strong, but it's something to just keep Might rolling. And finally, I'm taking Elevated Compassion. Heal allies when you grant them boons. It's great. It's great. It's also interesting how it says interval 3 seconds and it just doesn't say 3-second cooldown. I don't know. It's an interesting description. If anyone could clarify what that really means, that'd be great. So these are my specialization choices and trait choices that I have been taking. I'm fully aware that Kala Scorchrazor, the Renegade, has great alacrity, but sadly I don't have Renegade trained yet, and I'm only at 25 hero points. So that might be in the future when I test out Renegade, but for those who have Herald, maybe you can try this build out. Moving on to the weapons and the skills that I would like to touch on. Of course, I'm taking a staff, and which is really nice because the auto attacks, the final hit in the chain, will summon 2 orbs that will heal allies if they run them over, or if they run over them. And it will also apply regeneration with the trait. Punishing Sweep, this is more for an interrupt. If you can hit them while they're also performing a skill, you'll apply weakness, and then you can activate this skill once more to daze them. Warding Rift, this is nice just to apply blinds if you are being targeted by a couple enemies. that can be affected by blinds use this. It'll blind them, maybe even destroy a couple projectiles. Next up, we have Renewing Wave. This is a very strong point blank heal, which also removes 2 conditions. You release a burst of mist energy that heals and removes conditions from allies. Pretty straightforward, has a pretty high healing factor, and with all the traits that enhance our outgoing healing to allies, it's beautiful. Which is another thing. Keep in mind, all the healing numbers you see, these are the healing numbers that will affect my character. But when you're healing others, it will be increased because of all the trait choices that I have. And for the 5th skill, Surge of the Mists. It's a great skill just to do some break bar damage and to knock them back. Let's move on to our Ventari tablet. Let's get over here. It's a beautiful tablet. It's beautiful. As you can see here, it's applying regen, and I'm also getting might. First-hand experience. So you might have just seen right there, this is the skill Ventari's Will, which allows you to move the tablet around, and when allies are in the center or along the traveling path of the tablet, they will be healed for a decent amount, 1,300. It's a really nice skill. Does a lot of healing, and you can use it pretty frequently. Next up, I have Protective Solace. This creates a bubble that will destroy projectiles. Recently, I haven't found too much of a reason to use this often. They did recently change it to where it doesn't require a lot of energy at all, which is great. So maybe I will keep in mind to use it more often if I'm facing enemy NPCs, which throw out projectiles. Next up, Natural Harmony. This is the bread and butter skill for the tablet. It is on a pretty low cooldown. It's on a 2-second cooldown. It does have 20 energy, so it's a little beefy, but it has great healing, and it also applies Alacrity if you take the Salvation trait line. It's one of the passives. So I tend to use this quite often, and I'm just spamming this out, and it keeps Alacrity on allies and also does a great heal.
Is it true that my words have inspired an entire race?
Yes.
The pale tree raised us
Yes,
according to the
Ventari, it
standards you
is.
set.
And with the concentration, I have gotten it up to 2 seconds, or 2.3 and 1/3 seconds. With extra concentration, I can get it up to 3 seconds. So focus in on that concentration if you want to further increase Alacrity. And finally, for the utilities, Purifying Essence, which removes 3 conditions, and for each condition removed, it will heal you for a little bit more. It has a really nice spell effect too. And for the elite, Energy Expulsion, which will blow up the tablet, knocking enemies back, and also will leave 10, I think it's 10, never mind, it's 5 fragments that last for 10 seconds on the floor, which allies can come and pick up. That's how it looks. Boom. And then we can swap legends.
It has been too long.
And this is Glint, my second weapon, or not my second weapon, my second legendary stance. I'm taking, I'm not really taking, it just comes with it. Facet of Light, which applies regeneration. I have this on almost 24/7 if I'm in Glint. There's no real reason to take it off. It only drains 1 bar. It's not that bad. Facet of Elements, I'm using this to get around and also to initiate combat because swiftness is nice in combat, but it isn't vital or crucial. But it does a lot of damage on the activation. It's decent rolling damage, also with some conditions. Next up is Facet of Strength, which grants passive might. So that even helps with the trait choices that we've been taking. And you can activate this skill, you can consume this skill to deal some more damage and also gain a 15% damage buff that lasts for 5 seconds. It's a cool animation, it's cool. Finally, for the utilities, Facet of Darkness, which applies Fury to allies in the area. It does have a pretty decent chunk of 2 ticks, which also Facet of Strength has as well. But you can activate this to reveal enemies, apply vulnerability, and blind them. And finally, for the ultimate, Facet of Chaos. This applies rolling protection and was recently changed to no longer immediately start consuming all energy. It will instead drain 4. So if I consume the regeneration facet that I was using. There's still 1 tick going up. This used to just completely drain your energy, but they've kind of helped out with that energy. And then you can activate this to grant super speed to yourself and allies, and also launch foes. To quickly touch on the facets of nature, Glint, the passive will increase the boon's duration, and then you can activate this to increase the duration by a flat 2 seconds. For Ventari, the passive will heal allies around you, and then you can activate this to cleanse some conditions. Also, while we're here, might as well touch on the sword and the shield. This is more just like offensive, your basic auto attacks. Your second skill will chill enemies, and Unrelenting Assault will grant you more might and allow you to evade. Envoy of Exuberance is really nice. This is maybe one of the only skills that is really nice in this build when you swap to this weapon set, because it heals allies, grants them protection, and will also travel back to you. Crystal Hibernation is good for self-defense if you really need it. It's nice. I like it. I appreciate it. So overall, my basic playstyle is just keeping the tablet around allies. It has a decent radius of 240, so I'll keep it around, moving it accordingly. You will get used to moving it when you've played with Ventari for a decent amount of time. One trick, if you are new to the Revenant, is the skill Natural Harmony has a cast time. It has a delay time of 1 second. So what you can do is activate it and then move the tablet, and by the time it typically gets there, it will have cast the skill Natural Harmony. So if we cast this, just to reiterate, there's a quick delay time, and then it applies the heal and the alacrity. So if you would like to practice using Natural Harmony and then moving it, and the heal will end up at the other location. I don't think it really works for the other skills. Nope, as you can see there, it was moving, I pressed a skill, and it immediately activated at that point in its travel path. Overall, I use this skill whenever I see conditions, or if I feel like enemies are playing a lot of conditions. But other than that, that's how I play Ventari. But for Glint, I like to keep, as I said, 6th up, initiate with a 7, and pretty much keep the 8th skill up. If I want to start the fight with a lot of might, I will have these 3 facets up. Wait till it gets about 9. Pop the second one, let it get to 10, and then immediately pop the facet to gain an additional 2 seconds. And as you can see there, it got to 12 might. So that's typically how I start an engagement. And it just tends to stick at 12 might or so. I don't think I have enough concentration to get those values any higher unless I start using the other facets. But that is about how I play my BB, my wonderful Herald. And now let's move over to some gameplay where we can take a look at some healing values. And welcome to the gameplay section. I went into Verdant Brink during nighttime. Oh, right there, I think there was a 6k heal about. So already off to a great start. But I went to Verdant Brink at nighttime, and I was doing the fight the Tetrad of Morgem Champions, because this one has always been really challenging. Before this, I had to cut myself dying over and over and over again. But here, it is the 3 Morgem Champions. There's a Spellcaster, a Thief, Assassin styled one, and then a basic Bruiser Warrior. I, in this fight, was trying to focus where the groups would need the healing the most. So the Stave Master was doing a lot of damage, but thankfully his allies ended up moving away, so he lost some of his abilities that deal a lot of damage. So here I'm just wailing on him, also trying to destroy the break bar as much as possible. I'm not using my elite, mostly because I want to keep my Ventari's tablet up. And here, one of the enemy Mordrum, the Stave Master's ally, ends up coming in, and there is now there are now 3 rings of fire that are quite deadly, and people have gone down. This fight was really difficult, especially without a large Zerg. We first only had 5, and then it eventually ends up building, and towards the end, the Zerg comes in. But of course, moving my tablet around, trying to dodge, using the Surge of the Mists, trying to hit them both. One of them does get dazed, and the Stave Master's break bar is getting lower. Another chunk down. Definitely have a lot of conditions on me. I use my Facet of Nature right there to cleanse the burning. And I believe there was another condition, maybe cripple, bleed, or vulnerability, or one of the other ones that I am just trying to make up on the spot because I didn't see the icon. And then I move over to the Bruiser because it is just wailing on these 2. There's an Elementalist and a Druid. Druid is also offering some decent support for the people, but I thought I'd just come and give a helping hand. And then here we have the larger Zerg come in, and it makes it easier in the sense that you're not worried about dying, but harder in the sense that they do more damage and have more health and overall are more aggressive. So there's always pros and cons to having more people around. That person's dead. Looking back, I probably should have started resurrecting. But trying to move my tablet around into groups, making sure they're alive. And hoping everyone just kind of like enjoyed this little gameplay portion. Nothing super intense, nothing like a raid. However, these bosses can be a little difficult. I'm hoping to raid with this sometime soon to see how it is. But overall, I think I'm doing pretty good with this build. Just gonna iron out a couple kinks, maybe increase my concentration, work on alacrity application, and then of course do call a Scorch Razor. So thank you everyone so much for watching. Subscribe for more content, like the video if you liked it, and comment down below on your thoughts. And then we have Legendary, but I'm not going to show you because it's a pretty long fight, and it's the same old, same old. So thank you everyone, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye everyone. Mwah. Down below, I have links to all things Guild Wars 2 for free-to-play players and expansion players alike. So if you or a loved one are interested in playing Guild Wars 2, check the links down below and begin your adventure in Tyria today. See you in game!